There we are, and then you can see my face, which is always a nice starting point. Hi Faith, hi Rosa, how I think it's Elizabeth is watching, so that's all very well and good. We just need to wait a little. Who's made an angry face at me? I don't like angry faces, so that's not very nice. I wonder what that's gone on. Often it's because something's happened by default, isn't it, or by mistake. So I'm assuming that no one is angry. If you are, please tell me why, because I don't like that and I'd rather have people happy. We're just going to wait a little bit longer. I think it's still just before 6 o'clock, which is the time the live is meant to go out. And as you can see, I'm in my conservatory, which is my craft room. It's dark and it's perishingly cold for the UK, but thankfully not as cold as the -53 that one of the northern cities in China has recorded. Doesn't bear thinking about, really, does it? It really doesn't bear thinking about. So I'm just going to swap my cameras around so that we can see what else is going on. Good evening, Julie. Thank you for watching. So Matt is now telling me, and then we can add that in to there. We might remove that one to screen. There we are. That one will work nicely, I hope, for everyone. And then you can see what I'm doing. My plan for tonight is to have a little bit of a play. I've got some rice paper, I've got scrapbooking papers, I've got resin pieces, I've got lots of paints and pastes and mediums, so that's all cool, isn't it? And I've sort of got a rough layout because it helps when prepping things. So just let me dismantle this lot out of the way, and because that's always a good move, isn't it? And then we can go from there. Let's put some of this lot out of harm's way. And there we are. And I suppose it might be helpful if I unwrap my canvas. So I am working on a 12 by 12 canvas this evening. So just let me bear in mind. So I like working on canvases. I do like the dimensional ones. Good evening, Esther, I think it is, who's just joined us. I like working at canvas and for mixed media pieces because they are solid and they allow you to work easily and comfortably. My rice paper is one from Sir Vagabond Aviator, and I have a 12-inch square canvas here. Now, that means that my rice paper in its integrity would have looked, before I tore it apart and did some canoodling around it with it, was this sort of size. And as you can see, that means you've got a large area to fill for your 12 by 12 canvas. But I have a plan. And I like to layer my mediums up. So we are going to start. Bear with me. So I cut out my focal image from the rice paper, and I did cut it out because I was going to put it onto some stone paper. You can see this is the rice paper. It's really quite floppy, whereas the stone paper gives it some integrity. You could just use ordinary card, but it allows me then to shape. So that's what Good evening, Barbara. Thank you. And I also put some bits and pieces left over from a different rice paper onto some stone paper as well. They were literally leftovers from a different piece. So I'm taking some decoupage glue and varnish, and I've got the matte one here, so that's cool. And I've basically broken my rice paper up into pieces, so I can pop a piece up here, up in that corner, and let's line it up. And I'm going to make sure that it's properly sealed in place, rather than, because then I can add things over the top if I want to. And I will have some gaps that need lots of gaps that will need filling, and that's the whole purpose of this, actually, is to help people learn how to fill their gaps in the rice papers, and how to take your 12 by 12, your A4 rice paper, and make it into a bigger project. It's easy to make it into smaller projects, isn't it? You just chop out the bit that you want, but it's much harder to learn to fill gaps in. Good evening, Judith. Thank you for joining us. There we are. So that's much appreciated. So it's always a joy to have people watching what we're doing. I hope it's a useful activity. So this is just a good layer of decoupage glue going down first, and then we can pop our rice paper here into place. It's a bit wrinkly because it's been screwed up in a bag because it was a prepped piece for a TV show, and then I didn't have time to use it, so it makes sense to me to use it now. Got enough to go underneath there, so I'm starting in the middle of the piece and then pushing it out, and that way hopefully I will have less wrinkles in it. But of course, actually, it won't really matter if I have some wrinkles, because life's too short to worry about it, really, isn't it? So there we are. So let's pop that there, she says, and then we can push out that and get rid of the wrinkles. So I have a couple of tricks up my sleeve for covering this big white area, and also these little side pieces. I'm just going to lid my decoupage glue before it dries out. Pop that safely out here and stick that over there. I have some layers of stenciling I want to add to this. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of the dry before I do that, and then the stenciling can sit on the side whilst I do the next steps. But it's important that we get the stenciling done, and that, as I don't want my stencil to stick onto my beautiful rice paper, I'm just going to dry it off first. So that's the plan. So we've got Passion to Create from Norway. Thank you for joining us. Much appreciated that you're here with us. Yeah. So I hope everyone is well, that you're having fun creating, that for those of you that are at work, that work is going well. For those of you that are retired, that you enjoy your time with your family and not having to work. So hopefully, not quite there yet. The decoupage glue does dry reasonably quickly, which is always a positive. Let me just pop that on there while I add some next bits that I want. That can sit on there. I think I might need to be doing some undoing. So I have some deluxe paste here from Penta. This is the anthracite. I have champagne, which I need to open, and we'll need to give that a good stir. I have Emerald, which is a beautiful green. That also is going to need a stir, and also Lagoon Blue. So lots of different colours of that, and we're just going to mix them up on the surface randomly. So the deluxe paste have got ground up micro pieces of glass in them, and they always separate out a little bit, so it's worth just giving them a good stir first. And I know this is criminal, but I am going to have to wipe that off because I don't want to contaminate my pots. And there we are. So you can see here that the gold is separated, and by the time I've given it a stir, that white area will have disappeared in. As I say, they've got quite heavy particles in them, and it gives a beautiful texture. And I know Vasilis likes them very much as Christmas mediums. I have to say I find them useful all year round, which is always, but you make what you're happy with. There we are. That one's been stirred up fairly recently, so hopefully, excellent. So that is now reasonably dry, which is always a positive feature. Right, let's put the lids over there for the moment. So I have a stencil that comes with the collection from, again, it's a Stamperia collection, and we're just going to add different areas of this through. So we're going to add bits. Not all of it's going to be visible, and we're going to have to move it around a bit, and that's equally fine. So let's just have a little bit of the gold, and I can mix it on my palette, on the stencil itself to, so I'm getting mixed colours, which is also cool. And let's lid that anthracite, and we'll lid the gold. Make sure we get, or it's actually called champagne rather than gold. And hello Barati, thank you for joining us. And we'll add a little bit of the green. Over here. As I say, some of this is going to get covered, and that is equally fine. So that can go there. I want some additional pieces of texture down at the bottom, so let me just pop this into here to cover some of this and use some of this paste up. It helps disguise the edges of the rice paper. I think we need a little bit more over there, so let's just add it. And we're going to add some there, and that's fine. So that is our stenciling. So we've got our mixture together, and I've predominantly used the anthracite, the champagne, and that'll be the emerald, even though I opened the blue, but it gives me some detail into the bag. And hello Sarah, thank you for watching us, it's much appreciated. It's difficult, isn't it? We all have too many things to do. So I am just going to pop that temporarily out of harm's way on a floor, because that seems like a good move. See, that's not good. So I've got some plastic pieces from the clear die cuts from Stamperia, and they don't like being heated, surprisingly. So we'll just shuffle those out of the way. You can colour them on the back if you want to with the deluxe paste, but I'm not going to for this particular piece. So I have lots of cogs, which I have pre-painted with black primer paste. I think it's helpful sometimes to do some prep for lives, because otherwise we're here until, you know, we've got too many layers for drying. So there we are. We'll just add a few more pieces of that, and we'll grab our next set. So this is the paint effect set from Pentart that comes with the 5 colours that we need. Good evening, Lorraine. Thank you for watching, and good evening, Sabine. Are you in the Netherlands, or are you in one of the Nordic states today? I never quite know where you are. So the Rust Paint Effect set has 4 acrylic paints in it and a coarse 3D powder, and we're just going to add that to our to our cogs, which, as I say, are primed already. There we are. Just make sure I've got all the pieces, and I have some chipboard bits that I've already, greyboard pieces from Stamperia that have already been coloured. Hello, Susanna. Thank you. Thank you, Sabine, for making sure I know exactly where you are, because I'm terrible when it comes to remembering such things. So we've got in the Rust Effect kit an earthy brown, a red brown, a red clay. This one has clearly been opened, so excuse me for being very naughty, but we'll just see if we can unblock it. There we are, that way. Red clay. We'll need more of the rusty brown. That is for the earthy brown. You can see this one has been well used. And ochre. So the shades that are in Rust are all contained in that one magic set. So you can either buy the set, or you can buy the bigger 50ml pots, because they are available in those, in the 50ml pots if that's what you want, or even 100ml pots if you are going to make lots of it. And then we've got, as I say, the coarse 3D powder as opposed to the fine or the 3D balls. And that helps add to the texture of things. And this is when you really don't want to be using a brand new brush, because by the time you add in all of the texture, you sort of really cream crack at your brush. And I'm going to start just by randomly adding some dark brown to my pieces. It doesn't have to be accurate, because you're going to layer all of your colours. It's just, you know, it just helps provide a base. And of course, iron filings are, which is what rust naturally forms on, is actually, of course, dark brown. So it helps, doesn't it, if you've done that. There we are. You know, at least your starting point is the right colour, or approximating to the right colour, if you add the brown to it. But as I say, it's a very simple but very effective way of creating a faux rust effect. If you want to make a real rust effect, then instead of getting the paint effect set, then buy the rust effect set, which has got iron filings in it, and also chemical reagents to create your rust, and it works absolutely beautifully. But it's it has to evolve over time, so it's not the best so I don't waste it. It's not the best of of mediums to be able to demonstrate on a live, but whereas the paint effect is really good. So we've got sort of a random colour of that, and I'm going to pick up some bits and some texture, and then I'm just going to repeat the process. And because the earthy brown is still wet, I'm mixing it up together with that dark brown, and so I'm building my colour and my textures as I go. And it doesn't really matter which layer you put your texture into, so do what feels right for you. The red brown is conveniently next to my coarse powder, so we're going to add it because it's there. And that's always cool, I think. There we are. So we'll just add little bits onto here at random. And there really isn't a lot of sense, rhyme or reason to this. What I would say is that you need to be cautious with the amounts of the brighter colours, because otherwise they will overpower what you're doing, and that's maybe not what you want. And I think you can probably see why I've deliberately not picked up a new brush when I'm doing this, because clearly I'm going to have the coarse powder into here. So let's just pick up some of that the red clay, and we'll fill in some of the areas. And because, as I say, I'm layering it, and I'm adding some more texture as I go, I'm mixing my colours, so none of, they're not staying true on my pieces. And that is wholly intentional, because I'm deliberately wanting them to mix up. Now, and I'm picking up texture as I go, because that's also cool. You see, this is when you end up with mucky hands in the middle of a live, but hey ho, so be it. So you can see that you can create your effect quite quickly, and you can go back between your colours as well. That one's become a bit monotone. So there we are. That one looks like it missed the red. There we are. And the one to be really cautious with is the yellow, because it is such a bright, vibrant colour, and it's really quite easy to have pieces that are all very yellow if you're not very careful. And rust is a mixture of colours, so you don't necessarily want it all to be bright yellow. So there we are. Well, I might not have done around the edges wonderfully well, but that's fine. It's not going to matter on the final piece, I think. That's got a bit too much of that yellow in. So there we are. Let's just even those out and mix them, pounce the colours. So I've added my texture. I've got some bits of colour. I've mixed up my, I've got some colour variation, hopefully. So I've now then got a nice rusty appearance to my cogs. And if I lift these out of the way, we can then have a little bit of dry up. So there we are. Thank you, Sarah. I did wonder whereabouts in the UK you lived, because I see you online a lot and knew that you were in the UK. I'm just moving these, she says, making a mucky mess, so that I can wipe this lot up and have a clean area for my next bit. There we are. We're going to just have a little good wipe of everything. What on earth have I got under there? Aha! Right, let's take that out of the way. As I could feel a lump under there. That's a wayward. There. So just give that a good mop up because I don't see any other way around it. And I'm working on a silicone heat mat tonight rather than my normal greaseproof paper, because I think it's probably more eco-friendly to use that. And then when I'm working normally at home, I just literally would have my just run it under the tap rather than using baby wipes to mop it up. So there we are. Cool. We've got sort of a mess, but not too bad a mess. Okay, so I have 2 wings and I don't want them to be the same as the rest. So we could do this in one of 2 ways. So we can keep it really simple, or we can paint with the patina effect. And I'm actually going to keep it really simple tonight, and I'm going to use the patina blue antiquing gel. And all I'm going, so these are great. They're water-based products, and so they but they are permanent once dry, so that makes them great for mixed media pieces. And as I say, this is a simplified. You could just use this with do this with some antiquing paints and then add that. Hello Beverly, thank you for joining us. We all have to balance life, don't we? There are so many different lives nowadays all over the place that we bobbing in and out. I just appreciate it when people can join us. So we don't really need to be very complicated to have an interesting effect. We can make it more complicated if we want to. Oh, you are struggling at the moment, poor Sarah, aren't you? You've had a horrible run of not being well and some nasty things happening around you. So I do hope it sorts itself out for you. So there we are. We can add layers of colour. As I say, I deliberately kept this pared back tonight. Thank you, Nikki. It just works. It just works. So the Pentart lives are of course kept on the page, and they're also available on YouTube, so you can watch them back at any stage that you want. So that just adds some extra colour and a contrast, and I'm hoping that means the wings are going to pop and against the background and everything else. So then let me have I think we might be requiring a bit more of a dry, because I need to get the background back out in a minute, and that's still happily sitting on the floor. And we can move that over there, that can go over there, that can go over there. One of the joys of Pentart products is that they are heat stable, so that does make creating lives a little bit less of a challenge. So we're going to add some waxes to these. Do they work, the Soothe Gel sheets, Sarah? It's nice to know if they do. Oh yeah, so that. Yeah. And we'll help bring out the texture with some waxes, which is always good. The wings are lovely and they are so useful. I saw a set the other day done with reds in the centre, going out to brown or black at the ends, and they looked equally stunning. Right, so that now looks a little bit drier. So let us take it back to here. That's not quite dry, you see. So this is the background that I created, and I've still got white, and I don't really want white, but I do want light. So I'm just going to make sure that it's tacky at the moment. So it really doesn't take very long, but it does need to be dry. And then I'm going to add some colour into the background. In fact, whilst that is working, we might just try something, adding some extra bits, because I can add the colour later as well. So I put the deluxe paste that I used earlier into an impression mould from Stamperia, and they dry reasonably well. They're quite brittle when they're cold, but they will warm up quite nicely. So I'm going to add some areas here just to mask some of this off. And you can ask me, why on earth did you do all of the rest of it? But it's about building layers. So I want to have that piece there, and I need some texture to go down at the bottom. So that I might take this piece for here. You can hear that it's brittle, and the pieces don't matter. So there we are. We'll pop that. We might pop that piece there, and we might put that bit there. You can build. Might put the words up the right way. That's always a good starting point, I reckon. And you can cut the pieces off that you don't want. So that covers the edges a little bit. It helps to disguise those. I've got an area there that I definitely know I need to have covered. And I've got an area here that needs to be covered. So let's pop that onto there. So that's where we're going, and I will use some more of that. So simply for Amazing Art, what I've done is I've taken an impression mould, so one of the thinner moulds from Pentacolor. Oh, sorry, ladies, if that's made you go seasick. I do apologise. There we are. And literally just taken my pastes and mix them. So all you do is use your impression mould and fill it up. And I tend to mix my colours on it, but it's entirely up to you what you do and how you do it. There are lots of different colours in the collection. There's beautiful rose gold, there's a pearl if you're wanting to do sort of snow. So literally all you do is fill it up, and then I put it onto a radiator in my craft room or in my living room, and just let it dry. And they say when it's really dry, it's quite brittle. But when it comes straight off the radiator, actually it's really quite supple, so that you can manipulate it quite nicely. Let's do that. So it's great. So I wouldn't suggest you put the deluxe paste into the thick molds, but the text molds, it works in this one, and literally it goes in, it sinks back. So you do need a reasonable layer, and you can do it in 2 layers, and then just free it off from around the edges. So that's all I'm doing here, and then you can peel it out of your mold. And because I'm going to use pieces, actually it doesn't really matter if it breaks up, but it is definitely easier to demold it. Yeah, so it's easier, and it will work in embossing folders. So here's another one. So this is the rose gold, the anthracite, and the champagne colour there. So it just is, it's a great way of adding texture and detail without, yes, it does need a little bit of prep and a little bit of thinking about it, because if you don't, then it will be, it just takes time to dry, and I quite often have them just on the side. So I still want to get rid of some of this white, but I don't want it to be bright. I don't want it to be dark, and I don't want it to be white, if that makes sense. So I'm taking my much loved antiquing gels, and I'm just going to add areas of them, and you can color them, mix them on. So I've got ochre color at this point of my make. This I know I'm going to cover. This is going to be predominantly covered. I've got bluey areas over here. I've got greeny bits over here. So I'm just approximating to where the colours are. I've sort of got a sky. I know I've got an element to go onto here that's almost a sky. So let's just pop that there. No skill required. And it looks a mess, and it don't matter because I'm actually going to wipe most of this back off. There we are. So let's lid those. So whilst this is wet, again, she says, where she put the lid, we'll stick that over there safely. We can now wipe this back. And it just will allow my stenciling to pop, but take off some of the darkness. Okay, and although I sealed my rice papers, it has coloured them, and that again is fine because it all helps to build in and blur the edges. And you can take as much or as little as you want off there. But I've now got a softer background rather than that stark colour that I had before. And now, having created all of those pieces, we'll just grab some of the gel. So this is the matte gel medium. So we're going to pop some of that onto the back of here. Doesn't need to be a thick layer. So that piece will go into there, and that can sit onto there. We've got a little area that we want to add into here. So that's going to go onto there. What are the wings from? The wings are made from clay, and they are from a mould by a well-known Polish mixed media crafter. So this way I can add, and I'm using gel medium because these are textured, and so the base of the is not smooth, and so by using my gel medium it doesn't actually matter. Let's get it now. Let's get the text up the right way, because that's always again a helpful activity. There we are, that can go there. And again, this allows you to take an A5 texture rate. And yes, I have used bits from 2 and extend it over a bigger project. And I'm going to pop that into there. And I will cut off that bottom piece that's hanging off the end of there at another, when it's all dry, and it will cut off quite nicely with a craft knife. So let's just clear up some of the messy bits where I've squidged texture glue, the gel medium through. So there we are. So we now have a background that I quite like, and from here it's about building our composition and adding some detail onto our molds. So I know that I'm wanting to add some pieces of paper from the scrapbook. Some of these are on some leftover stone paper, others are not, and I've got an archival ink because I don't really want white edges showing, because I've deliberately kept the white off the off my off the background, so I want everything to merge in. So this is just, but it could be which any archival that you want. And I've got texture and depth there, so I've got some leftover pieces of MDF that I can sit there. So let me just pop my glue gun in. So normally I would only use gel mediums, but on a live sometimes you just need to use something more. So that's going to go there, and we have another piece that we're going to pop under there. Where are we? We're going, I think we might pop you over there, or are we going to pop that over there? I think we're going to pop that one there, and that one sort of there, and that will give me a place for my Statue of Liberty to rest. That sort of makes sense. So bear with. So Faith, the medium I was breaking was deluxe medium that I had dried in some texture molds. You can use it in the cake decorating, the very thin cake decorating molds as well, but it is quite brittle, so you do need to be careful when you're taking it. Was the statue stated as a mold? No, the statue isn't a mold. It is a piece of rice paper that from Stamperia, which of course are distributed by Pentart. So it's in the UK, they're available from several sites. So I'm just going to add all of the, just edge these, and so basically I've got the statue from one rice, and the background from one rice paper. Got some, these pieces came from a second rice paper that I was using for something else, but you could use scraps of paper from the 12 by 12 scrapbooking pads. That would work just as well. I just wanted, I needed something to stand the statue onto, if that makes sense. So that's going there, that's going there, that's going there, that's tucking under. So I'm building over and under, if that makes sort of sense from there. And I've got an area here that really doesn't have much interest in it. So all I've done is taken some images again from the paper collection, and these are from the collectibles, but I think in the main paper pad you'll find something that will equally work. So that's going to go underneath there, because that's going to fill that in, and I will glue these down in a minute, but I like to almost trial what I'm doing before I actually do it, if that makes sense, because that to me makes, is a good move, just to know where we're going, particularly as I want to add some, yes, I'm going to add some those cogs and things into here long term. So there we are. So, and I just think that it helps to fill in the background and add some extra detail to it. So that's where we're sort of heading. So at this point, I know that I can start. I've edged them all with the brown, so that is cool. I'm beginning to lose my edges where I've transitioned from rice paper onto canvas, and I can pick up my craft glue and just add some of these pieces in because I know where I want to go. So let's just add this. This is the Pentart Express glue. It's nothing very, it's just a fabulous glue. So there we are. And I'm deliberately letting that one lift up because I want it to be off the background, and putting a little piece of MDF or some chipboard underneath that might help just to lift it up. So let's just pop some of that onto there because it's irritating me without. And there's another a little piece of that, and hopefully then that will sit and not be wonky. There we are. So that's just lifted that up off there, so it's now A, supported, and B, there. They actually make a huge difference to the background, Nikki. And as I say, one of the, I think people, you look at an A4 rice paper and you think, well, that means I can only make, a box top, or or I have to have an A4 canvas, and then what do I do with it? But actually, if it's got a strong focal image and you work out how to disguise your layers and your imagery, you can actually use your A4 rice paper on things that are much bigger. So that's going to go down there. We'll just shuffle that over a little. That's better. That's sitting better. So that can go there. Let's just pop that one down. I'm aware that these haven't been stuck down, but I just auditioned them. Let's try and get that building reasonably straight. And so I now need a bit more of my express glue from there, and another piece of MDF that's left over from a previous project. There we are. So you never get rid of anything as a crafter, do you? Let's face it. So there we are. And that also disguises the edges of both of those pieces. So there we are. So that can go into there. This piece now needs to be raised because I've got that on raised elements. So let me just pop one. And because I'm using pieces of MDF, it's reasonably thick. You could use just as easily bits of leftover cardboard, would work just as well. So that can sit onto there. It's possibly upside down, but hey ho, who cares? There we are. Let it grab. There we are. Let's just pop that over there. It doesn't need to be very raised, but it's going to need some support at this end. So let me just, you see, I've got all sorts of bits and all sorts of weird shapes, but hey ho, there we are. And that's cool. So there we are. We're just going to add that. So that is going to sit over there. Maybe we won't use that piece. Maybe we will resort to a square piece because the round bit is a bit too big. She says throwing it on the floor. There we are. That can go there. That can go there. That piece can sit on there. There we are. We'll take it off that. And hopefully that will all grab. Surely. There we are. And obviously I now need to stabilise this piece. Let me just shovel that way, because if I don't stabilise this piece off the end, it's going to be very unstable. And it's poking out. So let's see if I've got a couple more bits of squares that I can. Typical. There we are. That will work. There we are. I don't want to add huge depth, but I do need it to be stabilised. So there we are. So now, if I let this grab, we can see that I have disguised my entry points where I tore my rice paper up. Okay. Well, putting some glue on the bit that you need to grab might help, mightn't it? But hey ho, let's just add, for time benefits, some of that. There we are. That will help. Now I know I want my, get rid of that. That doesn't matter that it's floating at the moment, because it's not going to be obvious long term. So that can go there. And I tell you, waste not, want not in my world. You know those little, the canvas stretchers that come with your your shadow box type stencils. They make fabulous spacers. So that's going to go onto there. Yep. So he can sit down there. And I will definitely be needing some more pieces, because he's not stable at that point. So let's just add some of these pieces. Well, Nikki, I just think we should be using, what we have rather than throwing stuff away. We all get cardboard, and that's great. And we all get bits of MDF, or I'm assuming we all get bits of MDF, and that I'm not the only person. There we are. So that's lifting off there. That's lifting off there. So let's just pop this under here. And I'm deliberately not putting glue around the edges quite yet, because I have a plan. So there we are. Let us clear some of this. Actually, no, we won't clear that. So I have some other bits from the paper collection. So let's just ink these edges. These are, as were the buildings, from the collectibles pad. So this could just as easily be, it stays on, but it's just an archival ink that I'm using, so that I can add wet mediums if I want to. I'm not going to, but wet mediums shift, so it's just easier to be in the habit of using archival inks when you're doing a mixed media piece, and that way you don't have a oh dear, I've made a mess of that job moment, because otherwise we find that we've added stuff and then we add another layer and the ink moves, or you can't see it. So you know, of course, if you've got, I think Nikki, you know who Dawn Bibby is, but if you've got her scissors, they will chop through MDF quite happily. So it's cool, isn't it, from that point of view? So there we are. There we are. So then I can pop that out of harm's way and pick up some of my waxes. Now I know that I want my wings to sit there and there, but they're a bit flat in terms of colour, so I'm just going to add a little bit of detail onto the surface with some bronze. I don't want to get rid of all of the black, but I do want to have a little bit of bling on my piece. So there we are. And then they need to be stuck with some heavy body gel, which will give me some wriggle room. So he's going over there. So the Dawn scissors will chop through MDF quite nicely, and that piece is going to go over there, and it's slightly raised because it's sitting on top of that building, and that's just cool. Right, so now we have this little lot, and as I say, I have a plan. So because it always helps to have a plan, I think. And now you can see why I didn't want to add all of my pieces all together. Why I've deliberately got stuff set at different levels, and why I'm able to cover and layer things together. So all I'm doing now is auditioning my pieces. So I'd quite like a piece there and a piece there, because that will help cover that. And we'll pop another piece underneath there. That helps all to stabilize that. And that can go there and there, like that. And we'll have another piece there. And we might pop, or we might not, as the case may be. We might just leave that for the moment. So there we are. We've got some bits sort of where I want them, but I want to again add a little bit of metallic to it. So I'm just going to pick up my gold wax, and I could have picked up brass, but I've picked up gold, so we're going to go with it. And we'll just add a little bit of metallic bling to these. And they'll help pick up, because of the powder in the pieces, they will help, that will pick up the texture, and that's always again helpful, I think, so you don't end up with a flat piece that's all covered in wax. So let's just pop that, because I know I want that to sit under there. So that piece is going to wedge predominantly underneath there and glue, and that one is going to sit underneath there. And I think we're going to pop that there, and maybe there, maybe there. That one's going to tuck under there. So this is just about, and as you say, I'm change what I do as I feel like it. So there we are. So those can go onto there. Come so. And that sort of fills that area and gets rid of the floating building, which is always cool. So let's just add that. We'll do these bit by bit. So that can sit underneath there. That piece can go over there. That's going there. That's going on there. Oops, she says, and she didn't put any wax on those. So just bear with, because that was not quite what I intended to do. And the joy of the gel medium of it is, of course, I can do just that. I can pick this up and change my mind. So, you know, with what I'm doing. So that can go there. As I say, this is literally, good evening, Blanche. I trust you are well. I'm looking forward to your live next week. So that can tuck underneath there. But it's going to sit into that space quite nicely. So this is, it is literally a question of just layering your pieces, having fun, having an idea where you're going, but you don't, you know, you don't have to have, see that piece I think actually looks quite nice balanced on top of there, but maybe it needs a little bit of support. Maybe not. Maybe it does. Maybe that's a bit too big for support, but that will work. Or maybe not, as the case may be. So this is literally just a question of adding your layers as you go. I've got some smaller pieces over there. So let's just pop some glue onto there. And just because you've made them all doesn't mean that they all have to be used. So that one can go over there. It's a little bolt or a screw head. That's loose, so that can go over there. We might and we might not bother. Depends a little bit on what we're feeling like at the time. Oops, she says. There we are. That can go onto there. That wasn't the one I wanted to pick up. I wanted to pick up a little bit of wax. So there. So that can go onto there. I think that will look nice lurking on there. I've got a little one, so let's add that onto there. Now, before I get carried away, because I've already got carried away because I'm hopeless, I've got some other little bits of paper. So I'm going to add that piece into there. So that's going to go there as a word. I like words on my projects. I've got another word that I'm going to pop into probably there. So I know I'm covering my my buildings, but they are all an integral part of the process. So that's going to tuck underneath there. We'll pop there. And the joy of using the gel medium, of course, is that it's allowing me to add my pieces bit by bit by bit. So I've now got some areas that I'd quite like a little bit of extra interest added to, maybe. So that's just a clear die cut that I'm going to pop into there, and it'll look awful because I've got white texture medium underneath it, but that will dry clearish and it will fade more into the background. So there we are. That can go into there. That can go there. Do I want? And I do I like that there? Do I prefer it? I think I actually prefer it there. So let me just add some of that. Look, she says, picking that up. There we are. And that highlights the New York bit. There we are. And of course, you could carry on adding bits to this to your heart's content, because that's just what it's all about, isn't it? Right. eeny, meeny, miny. So I do have some of the chipboard pieces, but actually, you know, they just add an extra depth, and they tuck in. So let me just pop some of that underneath there. Again, they're gap fillers, if that makes sense to people. So they're helping to, you know, layer things together so that stuff doesn't look like it's orphaned. There we are. That can go underneath there. There, yeah, that looks better. That looks better. And we can add, we could maybe add, yeah. See, I quite like that with just that little bit poking out there. It just, to me, works. So this is the joy of mixed media, isn't it? Is that you add, you take away, you mix, you match, you layer until you're happy. Okay, so we've got another piece of that there. We don't need that. We don't need that. But we've got some words. Now, most people who know me know that I like words on my pieces because they, to me, often tell a story. This one's got a title already because of the words New York. So, you know, so I don't need a huge amount there. So that can go there. Okay. That's just a nameplate, and I quite like that there. So let's just add that so it's sitting on there, because that grounds the pieces together and helps lift it. So that's interesting because that's not sitting nicely onto there, but that's okay. A little bit of glue will resolve that quite nicely, she says. We'll pick that up. Thank you. Is that Teresa from the Royal Courts there? They're saying she likes the look of it, or is it what, Nancy? There we are. That will help lift that up onto there. We've got a little advert, so that can tuck underneath there. As I say, this is all about how layering stuff till you like the look of it. That's going to sit down there. I think I'm going to pop that there, just a little bit higher, so it's not on a level with this set of words. So this is about play, a practice, and experimenting, and not being afraid. You know, so we've got numbers there. We've got numbers there. We've got a set of words there that does need a little bit of a boost. So let's pop that up into there. That's too thick, I think, but hey ho, it'll go. There we are. We can always add a little bit of a cog underneath it. Yeah, we'll add a little bit of a cog. Maybe there. Maybe there. There we are. We'll add it there because it's going to sit nicely there and playing. So I quite like that lurking over there. And then I've got words there, there, and there as paper on the top. And I might not use the other piece because it's rather big and I think almost overwhelming the size of my project. So that one sits there. So I'm linking my layers together. And there we are. So let's just let that grab. Problem with the Dux medium is that it's got it is very textured. So let's just pop that there. There we are. That will help hold that in place. So I've added one clear die cut piece there. I do think we could probably benefit from some more being added just for balance. So that can sit onto there. And I might well add another piece under there, because that solves the problem of the wonky bit. And we might add that on top of that die cut piece. There we are. So, ladies, we have our completed project, mixed media canvas using rice paper, scrapbooking papers, and lots of moulds, and that's going to come off there. So that, I hope, was an enjoyable activity for everyone, and that you like what we've done. So I think you can probably see why I wasn't, where did that go? Wasn't really worried about how much of my background was showing at the end, because I've blended them all in. That might work over there, mightn't it? But we'll leave that as it is for now. We'll get rid of the bits of glue. So that is our project for this evening, ladies. I hope that it's been helpful for everyone and that you've enjoyed it. Thank you for spending the time with me. It's always appreciated. I know that the lives in English are good for lots of people, and I wish you a happy, healthy and safe week ahead. So that's all for now. So I'm going to end the live, and I will see you probably live in about a month's time.